She handed him divorce papers in front of 400 employees. She thought she was ending a marriage. She had no idea she was ending herself. Nathan Walker arrived at Site 7 that morning the same way he always did, alone early and covered in red dust before most men had finished their coffee. His hard hat was dented on the left side from a falling bolt 3 years ago. His boots had seen 5 mining seasons. His safety vest had his employee number stenciled on the back, same as everyone else's, because he had insisted on it. That was Nathan, not because he was pretending. Because he genuinely believed that a man who stopped understanding the ground beneath his feet would eventually lose everything built on top of it. He had built a lot. Walker Mining Group, 12 sites across 4 states, 11,000 employees, a $12 billion valuation that had made him the largest black-owned mining operation in American history. There were profiles in Forbes, in Black Enterprise, in the Wall Street Journal. He never read them. He was usually too busy reading ground reports and drilling logs. This morning he was walking the Eastern Ridge with his site engineer, Naomi Clark, reviewing a new extraction corridor they had been planning for 8 months. Naomi was 34 years old, methodical, fearless with her opinions, and one of the few people on earth who would tell Nathan Walker directly to his face when he was wrong. He had promoted her twice in 4 years. Today, he was about to make it 3. He was going to announce her appointment as Chief Operations Officer before the end of the day. She did not know yet. Pressure readings on column C are still inconsistent, she said, pulling up data on her tablet without breaking stride. I want to delay the blast sequence until we get 3 clean readings back to back. Agreed, Nathan said. That was how most of their conversations went. Clean, efficient, no politics, just the work. Naomi glanced at him sideways. You're in a good mood today. I'm always in a good mood. You're usually in a functional mood. This is different. He almost told her right then. He didn't. His phone buzzed. He checked it. A message from his personal assistant, Raymond. Mrs. Walker and several guests have arrived at the front gate. She says it's urgent. Nathan read it twice. Then he put the phone back in his pocket and kept walking. He had a feeling about what urgent meant. The past 18 months had been a slow erosion, not dramatic, not loud, just gradual. The way ground shifts before collapse, small movements, barely noticeable, until everything gives at once. Jasmine had stopped asking about his days. She had started leaving charity gala invitations on the kitchen counter without mentioning them, because she already knew he wouldn't come dressed the way she wanted. She had started spending more time with her sisters, women who married men who wore suits to dinner and drove foreign cars and never came home with dust under their fingernails. Her family had never hidden their opinion of Nathan. Her father, Gerald Price, was a retired city commissioner who believed that a man's worth was measured by his visibility. How many people recognized him at restaurants? What table he was seated at without asking? Gerald had decided within 6 months of Nathan and Jasmine's wedding that his daughter had made a mistake. He had never stopped communicating that decision, in small ways and large ones. At every family gathering Nathan had misfortune of attending. Jasmine could have married Marcus Holt. Gerald had said once, loud enough at a Thanksgiving table that everyone heard, and no one responded. Marcus Holt owned 3 car dealerships and wore a Rolex. Gerald considered that success. Nathan had said nothing. He usually said nothing. Jasmine's sisters were worse because they were subtle about it. The comments framed as concern. We just worry about your future. Jazz. He doesn't seem ambitious. Does he have a retirement plan? He works so hard for someone else's company. That last one they repeated often because they believed it completely. Jasmine had defended him for a while. Then she had started going quiet when they said it. Then she had started nodding slightly, the way people do when they've already privately agreed with something and are just waiting for the right moment to say it out loud. Nathan had watched all of it. said nothing, kept working. He thought about what his grandfather used to tell him. Let the work speak. You don't have to. He had lived by that. He was about to find out what it cost him. He heard the convoy before he saw it. 3 vehicles. One of them a white SUV he recognized as belonging to Gerald Price. They came through the secondary access road, which meant someone at the gate had let them through without calling him first. He made a mental note about that. They parked 50 meters from where he was standing. Jasmine stepped out first. She was dressed as if she had come from somewhere important. Red dress, diamond earrings, heels that had no business on a mining site. She looked beautiful and completely out of place, which was a combination Nathan had seen before, and which usually meant she was trying to feel powerful. Her father came next, then her 2 sisters, then Marcus Holt, who apparently had nothing better to do on a Tuesday morning. Then 3 women Nathan didn't recognize, but who were clearly there for the audience. Around them, workers slowed down. Machinery didn't stop, but the men operating it turned their heads. Naomi, standing 3 feet to Nathan's left, said nothing, but he felt her attention shift. Jasmine walked toward him with the kind of purpose that people practice in their heads before they do it in real life. She was holding papers. Nathan looked at them, then at her. Jasmine. I'm done, Nathan, she said. Her voice was steady, rehearsed. I've been patient. I've been supportive. I have waited for you to become something, and you haven't. I'm not going to keep waiting. Behind her, Gerald Price smiled, and 400 workers went very, very still. She had practiced this moment. You could tell by the way she paused after saying it, just long enough for the words to land, not long enough to lose control of her face. That was not grief. That was choreography. Nathan did not move. He did not look at the papers the way a man looks at something that surprises him. He looked at them the way a man looks at something he has been expecting for a long time and has already made his peace with. He reached out and took them from her hand quietly, without drama, without a word. That was not the reaction Jasmine had prepared for. She had prepared for hurt, for argument, for the crumbling expression of a man confronted with his failure. She had prepared to be strong in the face of his weakness. She had scripted that moment in her head for weeks, maybe months, and Nathan had just deviated from the script in the first 10 seconds. Gerald Price stepped forward, sensing that the scene needed rescuing. Son, he said, with the deliberate condescension of a man who had never once meant that word. This is the right thing, for everyone, including you. Nathan glanced at him, then back at the papers. Marcus Holt laughed softly, the way men laugh when they believe they have already won something. He was standing slightly behind Jasmine's sisters, hands in his pockets, expensive shoes collecting dust from a place he had never worked a day of his life in. I always said you were more comfortable here than anywhere else, Marcus said. Guess this is where you belong. One of Jasmine's sisters murmured something to the other. They both smiled. Around all of them, 400 workers watched in complete silence. Naomi Clark had not moved from her position 3 feet to Nathan's left. She was watching with the particular stillness of someone who understands exactly what they are witnessing and has chosen deliberately not to react yet. Her tablet was still in her hand. Her face was unreadable. Nathan read through the papers slowly, not skimming, reading. Every page, every clause. His expression did not change once. When he finished, he looked up. Are these the final terms? He asked Jasmine. His voice was level, quiet, the tone of a man in a meeting, not a man losing a marriage. Jasmine blinked. That question was also not in the script. Yes, she said. My lawyer finalized everything. All right, he said. Then he pulled a pen from his vest pocket, the same vest with the employee number stenciled on the back. He signed every page with the same unhurried attention he gave to ground reports and drilling logs. When he finished, He capped the pen and held the papers back out to her. "Since we're handling paperwork today," he said, "let's finish all of it." Jasmine frowned. "What does that mean?" Nathan looked over her shoulder and nodded once toward Raymond, his personal assistant, who had been standing near the eastern equipment bay since the convoy arrived. Raymond turned and made a phone call. Gerald Price narrowed his eyes. "What is this?" "Give a moment," Nathan said. The next 4 minutes were quiet. The machinery at Site 7 continued operating. The wind moved across the ridge. Workers exchanged glances without speaking. Jasmine shifted her weight between her feet, which was the first sign that her confidence was beginning to cost her something. Then Raymond returned. He was not alone. 3 men in suits walked with him. Then 2 more. Then a woman Nathan's board members would have recognized immediately as his chief legal counsel, Patricia Osei. Behind them, 2 private security personnel took up quiet positions near the vehicles. Then the sound. It came from the south, low at first, then unmistakable. A helicopter. Black. The Walker Mining Group insignia on its side panel, large enough to read from the ground. It did not land dramatically. It simply descended with the bored efficiency of something that had done this many times before, settling on the flat clearing 60 meters away that the ground crew had quietly prepared while everyone was focused on Jasmine. The rotors slowed. Jasmine was staring at it. Her father was staring at it. Marcus Holt had stopped smiling. Patricia Osei approached Nathan, nodded once, and opened the document folder she was carrying. "Board is confirmed. Promotion paperwork is ready for your signature, sir. Announcement can go out as soon as you authorize." One of the workers near the equipment bay, a man named Dennis who had been with Walker Mining for 9 years, removed his hard hat, not dramatically, just as a reflex, the way men do when someone important enters a room. Others followed, slowly, then all at once. Then another worker spoke. His name was Carl, 61 years old, 22 years in mining, 11 of them working directly under Nathan Walker before Nathan had a board, before he had helicopters, when it was just the 2 of them on a 2-machine operation in eastern Kentucky. Carl said, "Everything okay, Mr. Walker?" The title hit the air like a change in temperature. Mr. Walker. Jasmine turned toward the voice, then toward another worker who nodded in Nathan's direction and said, "Chairman Walker, you want us to hold the afternoon sequence?" Then another, "Sir, Eastern Column is ready when you are." Gerald Price's expression did not collapse dramatically. It did something slower and more honest. It simply rearranged itself in the face of a man recalculating something he'd been confidently wrong about for years. Jasmine's mouth opened slightly. She looked at Nathan, then at the helicopter, then at Patricia Osei, then at the 400 workers who were all, in their own quiet way, facing the same direction, toward him. "Nathan," she said, and for the first time since she had stepped out of that SUV, her voice was not rehearsed. "What is this?" Nathan looked at her for a long moment. "This," he said, "is where I work." Jasmine Price Walker had imagined this day many times. In every version, Nathan was smaller at the end of it, quieter, reduced. She would walk away from a man who had never become what she needed, and the walking away would feel like finally exhaling after holding her breath for years. She had told her sisters that. She had told her therapist that. She had said out loud enough times that it had stopped feeling like a decision and started feeling like an inevitability. The way women talk themselves into things by talking about them long enough. None of her versions had included a helicopter. None of them had included 400 men removing their hard hats. None of them had included the word chairman spoken by a 61-year-old man with callous hands and 11 years of loyalty in his voice. She stood in her red dress and her diamond earrings on a mining site in the afternoon dust, and for the first time in longer than she could honestly remember, Jasmine did not know what to say. Her father found his voice first, because men like Gerald Price cannot tolerate silence that doesn't belong to them. "Now hold on," Gerald said, directing it at no one in particular, which was how he usually spoke when he was trying to recover ground. "This doesn't change the situation." Patricia Osei looked at him the way lawyers look at people who say things that have no legal weight. She said nothing. Marcus Holt had taken 3 steps backward without appearing to realize he was doing it. His hands were no longer in his pockets. He was holding his car keys. One of Jasmine's sisters said quietly, "Jazz?" Just the name. Nothing else, because there was nothing else to add. Nathan turned to Patricia. "Let's do the announcement." Patricia nodded and handed him the second document folder. Nathan signed it with the same pen, the same unhurried attention, and then handed it back. Patricia made one phone call, said 4 words, and ended it. Then Nathan looked toward Naomi Clark. Naomi, who had stood in the same position through the entire scene, who had watched Jasmine hand her husband divorce papers without flinching, who had heard herself called a secretary and an assistant and worker girl at enough Walker family gatherings that she had stopped reacting to it on principle. Naomi met Nathan's eyes and raised an eyebrow. "Effective today," Nathan said, loud enough that the workers nearby could hear. "Naomi Clark is the Chief Operations Officer of Walker Mining Group." The silence that followed lasted exactly 2 seconds. Then Carl started clapping. Not the performative applause of someone responding to a cue. The real kind, slow and deliberate. The way men clap when something has been earned and they know exactly how much it cost. Others joined, spreading outward from him in a wave that moved through the site until it reached the furthest equipment bays. Naomi did not cry. She was not that kind of woman. She pressed her lips together once, nodded at Nathan, and said, "I want that blast sequence delayed until Thursday." "Done," he said. That was the moment Jasmine understood the full shape of what she had walked into. She had come to diminish a man in front of witnesses. She had brought her father and her sisters and Marcus Holt like props in a scene designed to confirm what she had already decided, that Nathan was ordinary, that she had wasted years on ordinary, that leaving him publicly would feel like a correction. Instead, she had announced her departure from a $12 billion company in front of the man who owned it and every person who worked for him. And the woman she had spent years dismissing was now his chief operations officer. Nathan. Her voice was different now, smaller. The rehearsed steadiness was completely gone. "I didn't know." He looked at her for a long moment, not with anger. Nathan Walker had never been an angry man. He was something more difficult than angry. He was decided. "I know you didn't," he said. "Why didn't you ever tell me? Why didn't you show me any of this?" "Jasmine." He said her name the way you say the name of someone you are genuinely sad about. "I showed you exactly who I was from the beginning. Every day. You just decided it wasn't enough." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Gerald Price was studying the helicopter. Marcus Holt had reached his car. Jasmine's sisters were looking at the ground with the focused attention of women who wanted very badly to be somewhere else. Nathan picked up his hard hat from where he had set it during the signing. He put it back on. Then he looked at Naomi. "Walk me through the column C readings." "Already pulled them up," she said, and they turned and walked back toward the eastern ridge together, talking about pressure data and blast sequences and the 8 months of work that still needed finishing, while behind them the sound of expensive heels on gravel moved slowly back toward 3 parked vehicles and a decision that could not be undone. The workers went back to work. The machinery resumed its rhythm. The helicopter set quietly in the afternoon sun. And at Site 7, which Nathan Walker had built from a 2-machine operation in eastern Kentucky into the largest black-owned mining company in American history, the ground held firm beneath everything he had refused to stop understanding. Some people walk away from what they cannot recognize. The wise ones learn to look closer before they let go. Nathan Walker already knew that. It was a lesson Jasmine Price Walker was only just beginning to pay for. If this story hit different for you, hit subscribe and join this community. And drop a comment telling us what you learned.